Welcome back to another episode of Minecraft. I'm Jade, and in today's episode, we're heading out to the northeast of our spawn area because I have a specific project that I want to work on in today's video. So far in this series, we've built up the history and the lore of our world, and today I want to focus fully on how villagers come into that. So in today's video, I want to completely remake this village out here. The goal with this project is going to be to give the villagers a unique place to live. So I don't want it to end up looking like a human town that villagers are living in. I want the builds themselves to be distinctively villager-like, and give the villagers their own culture and their own way of living. I also want this to be a fully functional village, so I would like for there to be all types of villagers out here, like blacksmiths, armorers, farmers, fishers, clerics. I would like them to wake up in the morning, go to their workstations to do their job, and then at night for them to go back to their homes and go into their beds. And ideally, they would be completely safe where no mobs can ever kill them. So I'm going to wait for the sun to go down and for all the villagers to go back into their houses, and then I'm going to lock them in their houses, and then we're going to go over how we're going to go about rebuilding this village. So let's get started. Okay, so we've locked all the villagers away in their houses so they can remain safe, and now we can look at our village and see what we need to improve on. So I'm going to jump into free cam mode and go get an aerial view of what we're working with here. So when I look at a vanilla Minecraft village, one thing pops out to me that it's severely lacking, and that's any form of defense. I mean, occasionally they do have an iron golem walking around, which makes sense, but other than that, the villagers have no way to defend themselves. They don't fight back against any other mobs. They have zombies that spawn trying to kill them at nighttime. They have pillager raids that they have to avoid. Overall, the villagers are very passive and very vulnerable to the world around them. So it would only make sense that they took a little bit more care in defending their village. So I think that we're going to build walls at the very least. And then we'll also have a bunch more iron golems walking around to protect our villagers. But I think in terms of safety, the villagers would also really plan out where they would put their village. They just wouldn't build it anywhere. They would use the natural landscape to protect themselves. And that's why I chose this specific village in our world. Because if you look where I'm standing right now, this section of land is almost an island. The only parts connecting it are, well, where the roads of the village come across. So what I'm going to do next here is I'm going to clear out these sections of land, make this river go all the way through, and make this piece that I'm standing on here a complete island. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in a time lapse, and then we'll come back and start building. So let's go. Alright, so we've made this piece of land into an island, and we've also flattened it out a little bit. And I went back to the storage and got some bones so we could tame these dogs. These will be the first dogs in our world. So that's pretty cool. There's another one here somewhere. Okay, so we got these guys. But now we have to see what our first step in actually building this village is going to be. I think that an important part in any village is like the village center. It's where all the villagers come like during the height of the day, and they they meet up and they gather around. This village over here has like a fountain in the middle. It's where the bell is located at. I think for our village, we're going to do a well. And it'll probably be about where I'm standing right here. And we'll put like a well made out of some cobblestone or something. And then kind of like a courtyard around it. And I think very close to the well should be the church building or the cleric's house. Because that's a very prominent, a very iconic villager structure, which we actually don't have in this village here. So I'm going to go out into the world and see if we can find a village with a church in it, just so we can look at it and get some inspiration about how our village church should look. Well, it took me a while to find a village with a church building in it. I flew around all over the world looking for one, and I ended up directly north of our spawn, up over some snowy mountains over there. And I found this village here, which is hogging up 2 churches. So these villagers are very holy, I guess. They're right next to each other as well, which I thought was interesting. But we can look at these and gather some inspiration for what our church should look like. So, first thing that stands out about these buildings is they're completely made of stone. I think they're the only villager building that's made entirely of stone. There's no wood that goes into this other than the door. So we have to keep that in mind when we're building our church. I think another important thing is height. So I think we want our church to be the tallest building in our village by far, because these are pretty tall when compared to other villager buildings. And then I guess recently they've added stained glass, at least since the last time I've seen a villager church. They've added stained glass in here as well. So I guess we can add that as a little bit of flair to our build. Interior-wise, there's not much. There is... We will take this because this is pretty valuable. But there's an upstairs with really nothing in it. I guess the interior of the church is kind of weak. But it is home to the cleric, so we will take one of these and put it in there so we can have a cleric villager. But I think I'm just going to have to get in there and play around with how to design this. I want it to look unique. I don't want it to look like a church that a human would make. I want it to look like something a villager would make. So we have to think of ways to spice it up a little bit. So I'm going to go and start building the church. We want it to be made out of stone. We want it to be tall, and maybe include some stained glass in there as well. So let's get started on that. Alright, so I finished up the villager church, and don't judge it too quickly, because when I first built this, and I first got it done, I was like, dang, this is kind of ugly. But the more time I've spent with it, the more tweaks I've made to it, I've come to like it more and more, and I think it's going to make sense for our village here. So, are you ready for the grand reveal? Here it is. So this is our villager church, and it's very gray, and there's a whole lot of walls used pointing up to the sky. But I think I really like it so far. We can go into free cam mode and take a look at it from a distance, because that's where I think it looks the best. It's got a bunch of these pointy parts coming up off the top, and maybe that's like symbolic in the villager's religion or something. But I think it makes it unique looking. It makes it look like something that's not made by a human. Because originally when I built the church, it was looking far too similar to just the old regular Minecraft generated church. And then it was looking too similar to something that a human would make. So I just started adding a whole bunch of walls pointed up like this. And I think that's what makes it look more like a villager or another being made this building here. And I think once we get the other buildings of the village filling up this island here, I think this building here will really stand out, and it won't look so gray. Like, because all the other buildings will have color of their own, right now, just standing on this green island, it kind of really makes it look all washed out and gray. But I think once we get some other buildings around here, it'll stand out a little bit better. We can take a closer look at it now. I used the same stained glass colors that they use in the Minecraft church. Just yellow on the bottom and then white on the top. Then I've mixed in some mossy down here towards the bottom like they have in the generated church. We can look on the inside too. I used a jungle door just to make this building stand out. I think this will be the only building with a jungle door. And then this is the inside. So you come in and it's just wide open all the way up to the top. And maybe this too is symbolic of their religion in some way. And then this is like where they would come in to, I guess, worship whatever gods that the villagers worship. I think right here we'll have an altar of some kind with the brewing stand on it. And then back here in this area is where our cleric villager will live. And we'll put like a bed back here for him. The floor is really ugly, but I think it's very villager-like. Because the village does include some terracotta in it from time to time, so I thought I'd include some in here and then just put granite in here as well. And then outside, I made like the city square or the town circle where all the villagers will come and gather during the day. Like we'll put the bell here so they can all be drawn into this area. And I put a well in the middle, just kind of a simple build. Eventually we'll dig this out and put some water down there, but we'll have to find a way to keep the villagers from like coming down here and getting stuck. Because knowing villagers, they'll find a way to walk down here and then they'll all be stuck down the well. So we'll have to put some like trapdoors on the bottom here or something. But I think next we're going to come in here around this town circle and build some of the more prominent villagers' houses. Like maybe the librarian or the cartographer would have a house here towards the center of the village. And I think what I'm going to do throughout this episode is we'll build like 3 or 4 villager houses, each one home to a different type of villager. And then we'll come back in and we'll look and see what makes that house unique and how it differs from other houses in the village. So I'm going to go ahead and build like 3 or 4 houses around this circle. And I'll do that in a time lapse. So let's go. So I was sitting here getting ready to record this section of the video, and this guy walked up on me and gave me the idea that we need to have a house for the wandering trader in our village. I feel like this guy would be a prominent member of villager society. Like, his house would have all of his wares, and maybe people would come to him and give him stuff that he could take out into the world and trade with humans and other people. So we're definitely going to build the wandering trader's house in the future as well. But we can take a quick tour of our village. I kind of got carried away and I built more than just 4 houses. And I didn't surround this circle here either. I kind of went off in this direction. So let's walk through the village here real quick. We've got straight roads. So I was wondering, Should we make straight roads or should we make bendy roads? Over in the fishing village that we made in some of the earlier videos, we had bendy roads made out of coarse dirt. And I do think that looks better than the straight roads. But because the Minecraft village itself generates with the roads straight like this, I decided to keep it here in our village. Like maybe the roads are important to the villager culture. Maybe it's something that they take pride in. Maybe there's a guy in the village who's just like the road master, and he goes through and he makes sure all these paths within the village are pristine. But we've got the center of the village here. We've added the bell, so all the villagers will come and gather here during the middle of the day. Oh, wow. I'm going to see if we can ignore them and continue the tour. So I filled out some of the interiors of our village here, and I've kept things pretty simple. So there's not really that much inside of the Minecraft village houses, and I decided to kind of keep that theme here. Maybe the villagers pride themselves on not needing that much, like they're not living in excess. They just have a very simple way of living. But this is the cleric's house. So he's got some potions, and he's got his workstation here in the middle of the church. And then around the center of the village, I put some of the more, what I think are some of the more prominent villagers. Like this is the cartographer. He always seemed to be a fancy guy, so he's got his workstation, and I've color-coded all of the beds by what I want their profession to be. So the cleric had a yellow bed. This guy has a purple bed. This building right next to him is the library, and I do like how this building turned out. But the librarian has a white bed in here. As I was doing this, I was making an effort to try to keep all of the buildings really small. I think one of the main problems I have with the Minecraft village is some of the buildings get too big. Like, they'll be super tall. Like, there's one building that had generated in this village here. It was like 2 stories, and both stories were like 3 blocks tall, so it would have been huge compared to our church, which I want to stand out, and I want it to tower above all of the other buildings here in our village. But making the buildings small does mean that they're not really as detailed as I would like them to be. And they do kind of look a little plain. But so far I'm liking it. This is the leather worker's house. So he's got some leather. He's got his workstation, and then he's got his bed up here. And then right next to him is this building. And this is a Minecraft building, so I just took this building from over there and moved it right here. Because I do like how it looks. And it works for our village, I think. It's made out of terracotta, which kind of sets it apart. I don't think I would ever use this block to build in like a small scale like this. So this might be the one time in our world where this block gets used. But this is the cow house. And it was the cow house over here, and now it is over here as well. So they've got a little spot to live in here and get some water and eat some hay. And then out here they've got like a little place to graze as well. Cows are important in the village because there is a leather worker and there's a butcher. So I figured we needed a whole spot dedicated to them. And then I have added, the change I did make to this building was that I added moss to the roof, and I added it to the roofs of some other buildings as well, just to give our village a more primitive look, kind of to separate it from what the humans had built over there in our fishing village. A couple of these houses are just empty on the inside, so eventually we'll have beds in here if we need to increase the population of our village, but I don't know if they'll have any permanent jobs or anything. This is the stone cutter's house. So in here he's got a bed and he's got a stone cutter over there. I tried to keep cobblestone and stone to a minimum in our village. Most of the buildings are made out of wood or moss outside of the church, which is 100% stone. because they're still, you know, a little primitive in their stonework. Maybe another village in our world will be like on a mountainside or something, and they'll have the premium stone cutters, and they'll have really cool stone buildings. But this one here is not that advanced outside of the work that they did on their church, which is their most important building. This bridge over here is going to be our one way in to our village. So I made like a watchtower right here. I like how this watchtower turned out, how it's not as tall, not nearly as tall as the church, but still looks like it's got some good height to it when you're standing right next to it. There's nothing on the inside, but on the top, I added an iron golem up there. So these guys are also important to the village. The villagers themselves don't do anything to protect themselves, so they need these guys to watch over and make sure no illagers or no mobs come in and kill the whole village. So I was thinking maybe there'll be a villager's house, and his job is just to make these guys. So the inside of his house will have a bunch of iron blocks. Maybe he'll have some pumpkins growing outside, and he crafts and looks over these guys. I may also make like a building that's just like the golem barracks where these guys live. But there's one up there, and I'm thinking there'll be like another watchtower on this side of the bridge, just to make it seem extra secure. Also in that time, I took the time and effort to completely wipe out this village that was on this side of the river. I covered up all the roads, and now we've got just like a blank slate over here to work with. And I've moved all of our villagers down into this oak box here. So they're all sitting in here. Eventually these guys will populate our custom village over here. We've got about, I'd say about 1/3 of the village done. We still have a lot to go on this side, and I'm thinking on this side we'll have some farmlands for the farmers. So I'm thinking like a bunch of wheat fields over here, and then a path like wandering off into the distance. I was really hoping to get the entire village done in this one video, but I don't think that's possible. This might be a 2-video project, because this video is getting a little long, and we still have a long way to go as well. So for the interest of time, I'm going to do a hard cut into a bunch more progress. Alright, we've made a bunch of progress in our village, and it's looking really cool. It's really starting to fill out. We've added a bunch more professions. We've also added some trees in here just to kind of break up the skyline from looking too brown. Kind of add some green in there. And I like how the trees are making things look. I tried to force the larger trees to grow. But these are some of the new buildings that we've added. So this is the weaponsmith, and he's got his blast furnace out here where he can work, and his house is kind of like a blacksmith. And he's got a black bed in here with some tools up on the wall, or some weapons up on the wall. And then we did add the wandering trader's house, or the wandering trader's tent. So this is where the wandering trader would stay when he's staying at the village. But most of his time he's out in the world wandering and trading all of his stuff. So all the villagers would come here to his tent, and they would bring all the stuff that they make or they farm, and they would give it to him, and then he would go out into the world and trade it with other people, and maybe collect other things, other rare items that are out in the world. So this is his tent. I like how it makes the village look from a distance, how it adds this color, this blue and white. And then this is where he keeps, or he would keep, his llamas, but he's out right now. I did capture 2 llamas from a wandering trader, and I name tagged them, and I didn't know that they would despawn even when they were name tagged. I thought like if you name tag them, then they would stick around, but they despawned on me. But it still makes sense because he's not here right now. He's out in the world with his llamas. But this is where they would stay when he was here at the village. And then this is the inside of his tent, so he's got a bunch of empty shelves right now because all of his stuff is with him. He's got a blue bed. Definitely one of the cooler villagers. We'll go back around this way. I added another cartographer's house, so it's just the exact same house as the one before, but I figured that a cartographer could live close to the wandering trader and they could work together. This guy could make maps for this guy to go out into the world, and then maybe if he found something cool, he could tell this guy about it, and he could add it to his maps. And I just, like I said, I copied the same exact building here, which I did in a few other spots in the village. I just changed up a few things, like maybe added some different moss to the roof or something like that, just to fill out the village. And some of these houses are just completely empty, like this one here. So if we end up needing more villagers for our village, we can just fill these houses with beds and kind of up the population. But this road leads back around to the main center area of our village where they can gather around this bell. And then down this road, we've added some more houses, and we've added a beetroot farm over here. So we got the composter, so the farmer villager could be out here, you know, planting and harvesting his crops. And then this can be his house over here. So this house is the same design as the leather worker's house, but it's just for this farmer guy, and he gets an orange bed. And then the final few houses that we added for this video are down this road. So we got a fisherman. He's got his barrel, and he's got a cyan bed, and then he's got like a little dock out here that he can come out and fish on. And there'll probably be a bunch more fishermen like over on that side of the village as well. Once we get over there, I think it'll be a common profession for this village, since it is on an island. We added another watchtower over here with another iron golem on top, so we can look out over into this forest over here and make sure no enemies are coming across the water. And then over here is the toolsmith. So the toolsmith, the armorer, and the weaponsmith are all kind of similar. I thought, you know, maybe this guy could not have like a chimney with a big stove on his side. He could just put the tools together like this. And I don't know how we'll make the armorer any different, but his building will be somewhere over on the other side, so we'll put it far away so they don't all seem too similar. But this is the toolsmith's house. He's got a green bed. And that's all the professions that we've added to the village for this video. Well, I have copied a bunch of these circular houses because I like how they look. They don't look like something human would make. It's a little bit more villager-like. I like how they have the circular roof and the how it looks from the sky. But speaking of how it looks from the sky, we can go into FreeCam here and look at our village from above. So it's starting to come together. And I like how it's looking. I like how it highlights the church a little bit more. So the church was looking a little weird when it was just sitting by itself, but now that they've got all these buildings in here, it looks pretty cool, and the villagers can see it from wherever they are in the village, so it kind of reminds them of, you know, whatever religion they practice. This view here kind of looks really cool. And yeah, I'm happy with how the village is looking overall. And I say we might be over 50% done, because the church is a very big building. We still have to fill up like half of this island though. So far we have the leatherworker, we have a librarian, we have a cartographer, we have a stonemason, we have a what's that guy? That's the weaponsmith, we have the toolsmith, we have the wandering trader, a fisher, and a farmer. We're definitely going to have some more farmers out here in big fields of wheat where they work. And then I also want to build like a guy who makes iron golems and have him have his own house. And then we also need we have the cleric too. He's already taken care of. So we only need a butcher and We have the toolsmith, weaponsmith, the armorer. So butcher and armorer have to be over here somewhere. And then an iron golem guy. Maybe we can have a house for a nitwit. Maybe you can have like a rundown house. Oh, and the Fletcher too. We have to do a Fletcher. I have a good idea for that guy. But all that's probably going to have to happen in another video. Because it's time for the comment of the day. So let's take a look at it. Fantastic tower. I love seeing the world expand bit by bit. Looking forward to seeing the rest of the build. I can imagine the Flower King having a large flower garden estate in front of his tower. Yeah, so talking about this castle over here, we have a lot of plans going for the future. And I definitely want to include a bunch of gardens around here. Like definitely a garden over there at the end of our bridge. And then maybe some gardens out front here. I also imagine having like, eventually when we're done with the castle, going back through and adding like leaves and foliage coming over the side. And maybe some pink leaves in there as well. I think that would look cool and bring a lot of life to the castle build. We need to get back over here. Probably in the next episode, we'll try to get some more work here done on the castle. I imagine the castle covering this area here, and then in front having a village of some kind, or like a small town that's guarded over by this castle. So we'll definitely get back here and try to do a little bit of work on this castle in the next episode. But also next episode, I want to take some time to go back through all the old builds that we've done in our world. Next episode is the 20th video that we will have done in our world here. So I want to go back through just and take some time and look at all the old builds we've done and make a little bit more progress on this castle here as well, the Beekeeper's Castle. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for all the support. We got a lot done in today's video. We got about half the village done, half of the village left to go, and I'm happy with how it's turned out. So if you have any suggestions for the villager village, let me know with a comment down below. But see you guys in the next one. Bye.